الله الكبير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. الله الكبير. Directing all of our thanks and appreciations to God, creator of all things. And so we are indebted to him that he has blessed us today with this huge favor that you've bestowed upon us. And this is a unique opportunity for us to get closer to him. And it should be really the highlight of our week that we can actually do this in a congregational manner. And and we are making sure that we are worthy of this huge blessing that is bestowed upon us today. Appreciativeness and gratefulness is a godlike quality, and and we got to make sure that we respond in kind and be appreciative and grateful to God for everything that He has provided us with. So today, what I wanted to discuss with you is, I want to go back to, let's see. Yeah, I want to go to there we go. Okay, so I want to go to verse 23 of chapter 59, and I want to emphasize and concentrate on God's most beautiful names. One of them is Al-Jabbar. That's one of God's attributes and one of God's names, and so and I've translated as the enforcer. And God enforces His laws. Otherwise, you and I would not be here. Okay, this is a fact and the truth that we have to accept and admit that if God did not enforce His laws, you and I would not exist. Remember now when God said to the vacuum and matter, come into existence willingly or unwillingly. That was the question, willingly or unwillingly. And they said, we come willingly. They were happy the way God was running the show. You and I didn't do that. You and I said, no, we want the ability to make decisions for ourselves. We want to examine things. When you tell us, for example, that the laws were created or the laws were inspired after the creation, we don't like that. We want to verify this for ourselves. We want to have the ability to do that. And God gave it to us. Okay? We are often wrong. We try to verify God's creation with the knowledge that God has given us. And sometimes we go wrong. Sometimes we cheat. There are scientists who have been arrested and reprimanded for cheating on their research. Because that research that they were doing was not geared towards verifying God's laws. They were doing it for different purposes. And that's what we do. The same thing that we do in our daily lives is going on into this kind of things. So it wasn't enough for us that God was enforcing His laws and He was telling everyone that this is the way it's supposed to be. And they all said, yes, sir, we all accept it. Without asking any questions. We were the one who keep asking questions. In other words, we don't like it. We want our own laws to basically substitute God's laws, and that won't matter. We believe that the laws are eternal, and that's not what God says. God says in the Quran completely something different. He says, after I created this, then I inspired the affairs of every layer in the sky. That means they have different affairs, different laws, different commands that works in those places, and we don't know what they are. So this is what God is trying to tell us in these verses. In verse 59:23, God is telling us that this is who I am. Now, as people who are acting like nature does, that's the ultimate goal. Okay? Now, if sometimes we see that those laws are actually applying, that God's laws are applying, and in spite of doing that, we still disobeying God, then our responsibility is much higher than the ones who have already admitted everything. Because we have the ability to verify them, and we do verify them, and we still disobey. Okay, just think about it. That you convince yourself that God was right, that He was the truth, that what He gave you was factual information. And in spite of you verifying those, you're still having doubts, you still don't trust Him, okay? Then our responsibility is much higher than the guys who don't have that. They don't have that ability to do that. Okay? So they're not to be blamed. We are the ones who's going to be blamed because we have the ability that God gave us. Okay? He gave us the ability to distinguish. How to distinguish? Chapter 55. Okay? He taught us how to distinguish. And in spite of that, we're still disobeying Him. So as I said, this name for God, Al-Jabbar, which means the enforcer, enforces it. Okay? When you do algebra, what you have to do in an algebraic equation, what you do to one side of the equation, you do exactly the same thing on the other side of the equations. Okay? Otherwise it won't work. That's God's law. That's absolutely enforced. You cannot change that. That's the balance that He has created. Okay? That balance that He's created is immutable. Cannot be changed. He told us, do not disturb this. And that balance that He's created goes through a series of things, a multitude of things that we do during the day. If you cheat, you lie, you're disturbing the balance. If you're embezzling, you're disturbing the balance. If you're greedy, you're disturbing the balance. And He told us not to do that. So He enforces that law across many things. And we are in the position to even verify that, scientifically verify that. And in spite of that verification, scientific verification that we do in our lives, okay, In spite of that, we're still disobeying his commandments. Okay? That's why it's so important to pay attention to these things. And then he adds more gravitas to this whole thing by this mathematical methodology that he's used. That he's basically used these prime numbers that actually provide a base for everything. That you can construct things from prime numbers. Okay. He gives it gravitas. He says, look, this is no joke. This is something which is extremely serious that we have to pay attention to for our own good. We cannot get away with things that God has told us not to do. That He has forbid us from approaching those kinds of acts and deeds. If we disobey those in spite of the verification that God has bestowed upon us, that God has given us the ability to do so. Okay? You remember what God said? In this case, the blind is not to be blamed, because the blind doesn't have the ability that the other people do have. That's why. He knows that. Okay? He says, find this out with the help of knowledge. Verify it. Once you verify it, you have no excuse anymore. So the enforcer that does that, and we did not accept it, he said, no, we still want to verify it, how you did this, or how you're doing this. Okay? Gave us that ability to do that. Taught us all the names. Okay? In spite of that verification, we cannot, we still disobey his commandments. We can't do that. That's a huge responsibility. That's something that God has entrusted us with. And we cannot abuse it and misuse it. We cannot use it to feed our own egos. We cannot do false reports on things. So when you do that, when you verify that actually what it does, it glorifies God. Okay? But that glorification of God also brings a lot of responsibilities for us that we have to watch for and we have to be mindful of. So we cannot act ignorantly anymore because we have the information. And the rest of the creation doesn't have that. They have already accepted it. They said, yes, sir, we all go along with this. We are fine. They're fine with this. We put our trust in you, and you run the show. And he said, okay, I'm going to enforce these laws. Yes, sir, go ahead, please do that. We don't like that. We want to change that. We want to verify it. Okay, you want to verify it? Here you go. This is the knowledge that you need to verify it. And once that's given, responsibility goes up higher. Then the signs are shown left and right every week. And then we're still doing the same thing. Almost that way. Okay? We are responsible for our actions now. So that's what we have to be mindful of when we read these God's most beautiful names. Okay. Okay, I want to go ahead and stop here and finish this unit. Allahul Kabir.